Hi everyone, I'm Bria. In this video, I'm going to be going over my top 10 fantasy romance books of 2024, so let's jump right in. I made myself some mint tea because my throat starts to hurt sometimes as I'm filming this video because I speak for so long without taking any breaks, but I'm super excited to go through this list and I'm well prepared. So let's start it off with a bang. My favorite read, or my favorite new read of last year, was Quicksilver. I read this in September and gave it 5 stars, and it's the Fae and Alchemy series by Callie Hart. And this second book is actually scheduled to come out November 18th, so towards the ending of this year, and it doesn't have a title yet, but I'm very excited. The main male character in this book is one of my favorites of all times, and I can't wait to get more of his story and their story together in book 2. Now for my second favorite new read of last year, although depending on the day, sometimes this is either tied or switched with Quicksilver, but this is Powerless and Reckless actually. I read Powerless in March for the first time, and then I read it again in July when Reckless came out, and this is the Powerless trilogy by Lauren Roberts. And the third and last book, Fearless, is scheduled to come out on April 8th, so a few months away, which is not really that long in the grand scheme of things, although I would love to get that new book as soon as possible because I am itching to finish their story and hopefully get a happily ever after. And I almost forgot to mention I gave both of these books 5 stars. And moving right along, the third one is Wings So Wicked, which I first read in May and then again in August when the second book, Blood So Brutal, came out. I gave Wings So Wicked 5 stars and then Blood So Brutal 3. And this is a duology. It's the Golden City duology by Emily Blackwood. So I think if this was a trilogy or more, like 4+ books, then I would have loved the second book more. However, I feel like with duologies, like there's only so much world building and like depth the author can write and squeeze into 2 books. So definitely still recommend it, and Wings So Wicked was definitely a 5-star read for me. Next is A Crown of Tears and Treason, which I read in September. September was a great month of reading for me. And this is the Curse of Silver Secrets and Cruel Shadows series by Vera Ray. Very long titles. And then the second book is scheduled to come out on February 25th, which is not too far away. And the title of that one is A Crown of Victory and Vengeance. And this book ended on a cliffhanger that I did not see coming. And it makes me, well, I don't want to spoil anything, but it's an enemies to lovers book. I wouldn't say like the strongest enemies, but still enemies. And then they are bridging the gap and starting to become lovers. And then something happens that pushes them kind of back into that enemy's space, which I always love when it happens like at the end of the first book or in the second book, because sometimes I feel like if they get together by the end of the first book and it's like happily ever after, then like what else is there to come? So I don't mind this kind of cliffhanger, although it does make me very eager for the next book to come out. Next is The Crown of Oaths and Curses, which I read in September, as well as the second one, which I'm not sure what the title is off the top of my head. Let me look it up on Goodreads. I know the second one is out because I read it. Let me look on my log. Okay, the second one is The Throne of Honor and Blood. I gave the first one 5 stars and then the second one 4 stars. And I should mention also I gave A Crown of Tears and Treason 5 stars. I spoke about The Crown of Oaths and Curses in a previous video. I can't remember if it's just a duology or if there's another book coming. If there is another book coming, I don't think it's been announced yet, but I can't quite remember how it ended. This is the Mortal Fate series by J. Bree though. And then next, one of my favorites is The Shadow and the Embers. So I didn't read this for the first time last year, but I did reread it, and then I read the 4th one that came out last year, actually at the very beginning of this year. Like I started it January 1st. So I wanted to include this one. So I actually read these for the first time in November of 2022, and I believe only 2 of them were out then. And then the third one came out in, and then I read them again in September of 2023. And then the third one came out in November of 2023. And so I read the first 3 again. and then I read them again in August of last year, and I believe that's when the fourth one, Born of Blood and Ash, came out. But again, I read that January. So the first one is A Shadow in the Ember, and then A Light in the Flame, A Fire in the Flesh, and Born of Blood and Ash. And this is the Flesh and Fire series by Jennifer Armentrout. It is a completed series, however, there's a second series in this world that she hasn't finished yet, and the sixth book is actually coming out, I believe, in June or sometime this year. So, and I don't know if I mentioned it, this is one of my favorite series ever, and one of my favorite authors as well. I love her writing style, and I feel like she does a great job of writing the main character's point of view, and then also like the banter that comes with like enemies to lovers and that journey. So yeah, although this was technically a reread, it was one of my favorite reads of last year. And then moving on to another reread, I reread the Acatar series in October. I first read them in May of 2022, and I'm not sure when else. And that was around when I started getting back into reading. I believe it was 2022, and I thankfully found Sarah J. Maas and Jennifer Armentrout pretty fast. I know I read quite a few series like as I was getting back into things, but I'm very thankful that those two authors were recommended to me then and not later, although better late than never if that's your case. But their writing and their books have brought me so much joy, so I'm very grateful for that. But yeah, I reread the entire series, so it's A Court of Thorns and Roses, A Court of Mist and Fury, A Court of Wings and Ruin, A Court of Frost and Starlight, and then A Court of Silver Flames. And she's announced that she's going to come out with a sixth book. Well, actually, let me say first, so the first four books follow one main character, one female, and then one male, kind of. And then the fifth book follows one or two of the secondary characters. And then the sixth book is going to follow, I think, one or two more of the secondary characters. So it's kind of a completed series, but not a completed world. And then she has a second series, Crescent City, that kind of overlaps with this one, although this is my least, or Crescent City is my least favorite series of hers, but it is worth the read just to like bridge the gap a little bit. But I wouldn't say it's completely necessary. But yeah, these are, I think it's just the Acatar series, A Court of Thorns and Roses, and it's by Sarah J. Maas. Next is When the Moon Hatched, which I actually only gave 4 stars, although when I think back on this one, it was one of my favorite reads of last year. Oh, and I should say, if it's not obvious, all of the Acatar books and then the Fire or Flesh and Fire ones, I gave 5 stars, and I will always give 5 stars. But yeah, I read When the Moon Hatched in June, and this is the Moonfall series by Sarah Parker. And the second one is scheduled to come out on October 7th, and it's the Ballad of Falling Dragons. And I will say this book is written in a very descriptive way, especially at the beginning. So if that's not your cup of tea, you may not like it as much. However, I personally love really descriptive writing and lots of world building, so I was like eating this up the entire time. And then we're getting close to the end. This actually might be a little bit of a shorter video than my usual ones. So the second to last is Blood and Steel, which I read in August, and I actually gave this entire series 4 stars. However, it is one of my favorites and one of my favorite authors. I would just say like second string. I will say I give out 5 stars sparingly, and sometimes I want to take them back. So like for me, 4 stars is still a great book and one that I will probably end up rereading at some point. So this is the Legends of Thesmar series by Helen Schurer. It's 4 books and it's completed, although I believe she has another book out that is in the same world but following 2 separate characters. But let me see what the 4 books are called. They're Blood and Steel, Vows and Ruins, Fate and Furies, and Shadow and Storms. And then lastly, the 10th, yet really more than 10th, one of my favorite books I read last year was Lady of Darkness. So I read this in November and I gave the entire series 4 stars. However, again, a solid series and author. This is the Lady of Darkness series, and it's by Melissa Rowrich, and let me find the titles for you. They are Lady of Darkness, Lady of Shadows, Lady of Ashes, Lady of Embers, and Lady of Starfire. And this is a completed series. However, she does have another series set in the same world that's the Legacy series, and the fourth one is coming out August 28th. It doesn't have a title yet, but the first one is Reign of Shadows and Endings, and that's another solid 4-star series for me. And there are a few characters from the Lady of Darkness series that make an appearance in that one, so I recommend reading both if you do pick up one. So yeah, those were my favorite fantasy romance books I read last year. I'm so grateful to have read so many amazing books and found so many new authors and series and worlds, and I'm very much looking forward to the new releases that are coming up this year, and I will hopefully have another 10 plus books to easily add to this list for next year as well. And I'm hoping to have a really great year of reading. It is January, and actually the next release that I'm most excited for is Onyx Storm, which is coming out very soon. So I'm very excited about that, and I hope you have a great year of reading as well. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm, and I greatly appreciate it. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you on the next one, and always remember that you're pure magic.